Aloha, everyone. It's Antonio with hypnosisproductreviews.com. Today, I've got a very special guest on, Roy Hunter. The last time I interviewed him was probably about 3 years ago with the Hawaii Hypnosis podcast. I'm gonna interview him about his upcoming post and pre-conference at Hypno Thoughts Live. And of course, since I'm in Hawaii, I had to find my most obnoxious Hawaii shirt. This is actually my work shirt. It's got to be the most obnoxious shirt in all of the Hawaiian Islands.
Oh, I like it.
Well, how you doing, Roy? It's okay if I'm not standing in the sun, but if I'm in the sun, it's ungodly bright. It just blisters your eyes. So, how you doing today?
I'm doing fine, thank you. Got back a few days ago from a very successful trip to England, where I was able to teach 3 different workshops.
Now, who put those on? So I know a lot of people in England, like Carl Smith and whatnot, have been putting a lot of workshops on.
Once every summer, Pete Bateman and Lorraine Gleason of Hampshire Hypnotherapy sponsor me to come to Portsmouth and teach parts therapy.
That's awesome. You know, one book I still need to get of yours is the you're probably gonna have it at the conferences. I think it's The Art of Hypnotherapy. You've got, is it 1 or 2 books?
I actually have 6 books now that are in print.
Wow, I need to keep up with the times.
Well, you are going to be at Hypno Thoughts Live, is that correct?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Stop by my booth. I'll have some books available, and of course, autographs free.
Okay, perfect. Autographs are always good. You know, it's funny. Speaking of autographs, when on an off note, when people are walking by my activity booth where I work, a lot of times people are walking by with cameras. I'm like, no autographs, and they kind of look at me like, that's kind of weird. But I do it just to kind of lighten the mood up, get some good laughs. Yeah. So the conference, this is the 3rd year. I've been every year. I think I met you. Yeah, I met you the first year. Talked for a little bit. I saw you last year. I think we were both kind of in passing. We're really busy. How would you describe Hypno Thoughts to people?
It's a group of people interested in hypnosis, both professionals as well as people who are not hypnosis professionals, but who are very interested in hypnotherapy, either as a possible future career or to become a client of hypnosis, and they want to learn all they can before they choose the hypnosis professional to work with them.
Definitely. And I've been to 2, I would say I've been to only 1 conference being Hypno Thoughts Live, and I've been to a couple different trainings, one with Kevin Cole, one with Igor Ledachovsky. The thing I love about Hypno Thoughts is it's got a big family feel to it, because a lot of us have been in communication for years, never met each other, and it's kind of weird being able to meet somebody when you don't have a keyboard. I remember the first time I met Richard Neingard. He had come out on vacation to Kauai, I think 2 or 3 years ago, and we were sitting down eating dinner at a restaurant, so we both looked at each other like, oh, this is weird. There's no keyboard to kind of talk to each other.
I like Hypno Thoughts Live conference because unlike the other hypnosis conventions, with the sole exception of the Midwest convention, it's not any one exclusive hypnosis association. It's a conglomerate with people from all the various hypnosis associations that come. And I'm sure there are people there who use hypnosis who don't belong to any association. But basically, it's a bunch of us with a common goal, and that's to use hypnosis to help people.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's I'm definitely gonna want to check out different conferences. So I know a couple years ago, I've heard Scott mention this a couple times, and maybe on my podcast, also on Hypno Thoughts, the main website, that if you want training, he's like, you want to get all kinds of training. You want, even if you're not gonna be a stage hypnotist, be a stage hypnotist. That way you can have kind of a well-rounded education. And so I think it'd be good to check out everything and try to And I know some places can have high ego, so you just have to kind of brush those off the bat.
Well, I am not a stage hypnotist, but years ago I took a stage hypnosis workshop facilitated by Orman McGill. He and I were good friends, and he wanted me to learn stage hypnosis. And although I have attempted a small handful of stage hypnosis shows from more of an educational standpoint for the audience, I feel like a total novice at stage hypnosis, so I leave that to the pros who are masters at it because it's not my cup of tea. But I feel that it was good that I tried my hand at it a couple times.
Yeah, it seems like it would be good to give you that, like I said, to kind of round out the education. You know, it's funny you mentioned Orman McGill. I was actually at a stage hypnosis show here, I think, God, it might have been 4 years now, or God, even 5 years ago. It was one of his students, the older guy, I can't remember his name. It was like, do you know of anybody? I think his name was Scandini.
Doesn't ring a bell, although I have met thousands of hypnotherapists over the years, and I can't begin to remember all of them.
Yeah, I have a bad memory as is. Yeah, so your conference, I know you got two conferences. You have a pre-conference and you have a post-conference coming up. Can you describe the classes and what people can expect to gain from them?
Certainly. The pre-conference is on client-centered parts therapy. It's not the only game in town, but it's based on the concept that we all have different parts of our personality or aspects of the subconscious. For example, if a client wants to quit smoking, there's a part of that client's subconscious that motivated him or her to invest time and money to see me for sessions. But there's another part that is motivating the client to keep on smoking. Otherwise, they wouldn't need my services in the first place. And I act like a mediator and call out the two parts in conflict and help them come up with their own best resolution. So I'm helping the client to facilitate inner dialogue. Charles Tebbets was a pioneer of client-centered format of parts therapy, and before he passed on in 1992, he asked me to continue his work. So I've revised it and updated it over the years. I wrote a book on it that was published in 2005 by Crown House Publishing entitled Hypnosis for Inner Conflict Resolution, Introducing Parts Therapy. There are other variations of it, such as ego state therapy, which was pioneered by the late John and Helen Watkins, both of whom were doctors. And Gordon Emerson is their protege. He continued ego state therapy, had a book by that title published in 2003 by Crown House Publishing, and he went on to evolve it into what he now calls resource therapy. Hal and Sidra Stone, who were the pioneers of voice dialogue, came up with their own variation, which doesn't involve the combination of deep hypnotic trance like parts therapy and ego state therapy do. Then there's another variation, which today is a 6-step reframe, which actually is a descendant of the parts party that Virginia Satir promoted many years ago. And then she met one of the two NLP gurus, and then Bandler and Grinder evolved it into another variation of parts therapy, which then evolved into the 6-step reframe. Then there's a professor of psychiatry at the University of San Diego who started pioneering a variation 40 years ago, which he called subliminal therapy, where he would call out a higher, intelligent, wise part that he would call centrum, and then he would have centrum arbitrate with the patient's various parts. And he documented some profound successes with it. He now calls it by a different name, but nonetheless, his version was so effective that many months ago, after he got diagnosed with Alzheimer's, he had a psychologist from Germany who was one of his former subliminal therapy students do the technique on him, and he completely reversed the symptoms of Alzheimer's. which is an amazing medical breakthrough. And I was so moved by it when Dr. Yeager sent me an email about his success that I literally was in tears of joy when I finished reading that email. It reminded me of the 7 years I worked part-time for Franciscan Hospice and how frustrating it was when I saw people who were very intelligent suffering from Alzheimer's. And that really sometimes challenged my feelings to the outer limits. I sometimes would cry half the way home after I would go see a patient with Alzheimer's when I worked for the hospice.
Yeah, that seems like it can be really emotionally and mentally draining.
I learned a lot. I wouldn't trade the education, but I certainly have a lot of respect for people who work with the death and dying. I'm glad I did my time, so to speak, doing hypnotherapy for the Franciscan Hospice, but I much prefer traveling and teaching. And I've had the privilege of teaching parts therapy and or regression therapy in 17 different countries in the last 6 years.
That's a good accomplishment right there.
It's a great way to help clients resolve inner conflicts. And I've helped many clients over the years who have tried and failed at other hypnotherapy techniques that work for most of the people most of the time. So parts therapy is a terrific tool, and I believe every practicing hypnotherapist should have either parts therapy or one of its variations in his or her toolkit. That's a personal opinion.
Now doing this this podcast, I wish I had more time in Vegas, because it's been a year since I had a vacation, so I have to make it part vacation. When you live on an island, you need to get off the island because you will go absolutely crazy. You need to be able to see shopping malls, kind of city life. So I think for next year, I'm expecting you might be doing another workshop. I'm definitely gonna have to make it to it.
Well, if you can take a break for a few hours, rent a car and drive out to Hoover Dam, which is only about an hour from the Strip, and as the park rangers say, they can give you the whole damn tour.
Yeah, I think I might have to do that.
It's very definitely worth seeing. There's also an awesome view of Hoover Dam from a bridge that was opened up just a few years ago. So that's also worth seeing, and it's near the Hoover Dam.
Now that bridge, is it the one, or is it the one at the canyon where the clear bridge that kind of wraps around? Or I don't know if they even completed that one.
It's completed. If it's the one that I believe you're thinking of, that is much higher up than the elevation of Hoover Dam.
So I know there's one. I'm sorry for interrupting. There's one that's supposed to be clear. When you look down, it's supposed to be a clear glass going all the way down.
You can actually walk out on the bridge and look through glass. When you drive across it in a vehicle, the fence post is so high that you can't really see the dam from the vehicle, but you can go on the side road, excuse me, and park and walk out on the bridge, and the view is incredible. You're looking at Hoover Dam almost as though you're looking at it from an airplane.
See, I would never get my girlfriend on that.
Well, if she prefers canyons, there's a beautiful Red Rock Canyon on the west side of Las Vegas. You can do that in just an hour or two.
Yeah, I think I might post something in Hypno Thoughts to see if people want to. Yeah, anybody listening to this, if you guys want to, I'll do like a trip out there. If you guys have a car, I'll pay for gas, and that way we can try to see some beautiful nature bits. Now so the first one is parts. I took a note. So the first one you're doing parts, and is it a 2-day class or 1 day?
It's a 2-day class. I take you through the entire process step by step to help you get results. There's a process that I have evolved over a period of 3 decades plus, and it's passed the test of time. It may not be the only game in town because there are different ways to get from Los Angeles to New York, but it is a tried and proven method that works and gets results. Dr. Bruce Eimer, who's a licensed clinical psychologist, working as a pain psychologist as a full-time job in a major hospital in the Philadelphia area, has been using parts therapy with chronic pain patients with some amazing results. He studied ego state therapy years ago directly under John and Helen Watkins, and he told me he prefers the parts therapy process because it's easier to learn, easier to apply. And after he and I met, we became friends, found out we had some common professional goals. So we got my parts therapy workshop approved by the American Psychological Association for CE credits for licensed psychologists. Dr. Eimer and the Behavioral Therapy Center is responsible for the credits and the content of the workshop. So I have to state that in any advertisement, whether it's verbal or public. But nonetheless, it's proven to be worthwhile, has passed the test of time, and to the best of my knowledge, I believe I'm the, if not the first, one of a handful of people who are not licensed psychologists who's had a program approved by the APA for continuing education. Then post-conference, Dr. Eimer and I are both co-presenting hypnotic regression therapy, which is based on the book that the two of us co-authored, entitled The Art of Hypnotic Regression Therapy, a Clinical Guide. That was published in 2012 by Crown House Publishing and has received very high reviews from all over the globe. We wrote that as a response to the regression critics who seem to want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Their concerns are valid because people don't understand the difference between guiding and leading, and don't understand what inappropriate leading is or the risks of false memories. Also, if they don't understand how to handle abreactions, these are the emotional discharges that take place during regression therapy, then they are wise not to use regression. But that being said, if a person is competently trained in hypnotic regression therapy, it's a very valuable tool that can help some of the people some of the time. I am not one of these who tries to use regression with everybody, nor do I try to use parts therapy with everybody. I believe in fitting the technique to the client instead of vice versa. So while I'm doing parts therapy, Dr. Eimer is presenting 2-day pain management, which is also approved by the APA for CE credits. And then the two of us are combining our own experience to co-present the 2-day regression therapy workshop after the conference.
Oh, this sounds good. Yeah, everybody listening to this, if you, more than likely I won't have time to put this on most of the podcasts I put on my website. If you look above this link, I'll have above this video, I'll have a link to the Hypno Thoughts Live, where you can actually register for either one of his conferences or register for both of them.
Great, thank you. I might add, you do not have to be a psychologist to attend these workshops. I just felt that it would be important for the credibility of the workshops to note that the APA has approved both of them, including, well, 3 of them if you include Bruce's pain management workshop for CE credits for psychologists.
I think it shows a changing in the tide, where hypnotherapy is starting to become a lot more mainstream, considering the APA is giving you CEU credits.
Well, Dr. Eimer was recommending the art of hypnosis and the art of hypnotherapy to psychologists and physicians that he was mentoring in hypnosis for quite a number of years, because he's an approved hypnosis mentor and fellow of ASCH, which is the American Society of Clinical Hypnosis. And eventually he decided he wanted to meet the author of the books he'd been recommending. So he showed up at one of my parts therapy workshops in 2011, and we hit it off great as colleagues, and eventually became friends. And we both invested many hundreds of hours in going through the bureaucratic process to get the APA to approve our 3 workshops for continuing education for psychologists.
Oh, I can imagine it was a lot of red tape you guys had to kind of cut around, or even having to deal with.
Anyone who's gotten his or her program approved by the APA for CE credits knows the hoops that Dr. Armour and I had to jump through.
I can imagine it was probably it was a nice long battle, but a battle that's totally worth it.
Well, I believe it builds an important bridge between psychology and hypnotherapy and sets a precedent for hypnotherapists in other countries around the globe.
Yeah, it seems like, I mean, I could be wrong. This could be a bias because, obviously America is the best country in the world. Kidding everybody. I'm joking with everybody. But I think we have a lot of, I could be wrong, but we have a lot of, I don't want to call it breakthroughs, but we have a lot of advancements happening in the U.S. I'm not sure about other countries. I'm sure a lot of countries have the unique advantages coming through.
It's a global community. In fact, sometimes people ask me where the best training is in hypnotherapy, and I have to tell you, in my opinion, Australia is years ahead of us, because the Australian Hypnotherapists Association, not only is it the oldest hypnosis association in the world, believe it or not, older than the NGH, they also have a very comprehensive training program in order to be certified by that organization.
I know, sorry for interrupting. I know at one point, I think it was New South Wales, which was, you could not practice hypnotherapy. I think they might have changed it. I could be wrong, though.
They had some problems there a number of years ago, and there were several key people in the hypnotherapy profession that were able to grow beyond that and get hypnotherapy more acceptable.
Okay. So that was taken care of. That's good.
Yes. I believe Joanne Goulding will be at the Hypno Thoughts Live. I know she's been very active in hypnotherapy in Australia for many years. She fought legal battles herself, and she's the originator of the Sleep Talk, which is becoming famous all over the globe now.
That's how I know her name.
And she's a very genuine person, totally professional, client-centered, and if you get a chance to visit with her, she's well worth talking to.
I'm gonna have to take a look at it. Now,
often find her hovering around the exhibit table where Larry and Cheryl Ellman work, because they're good friends.
Oh, that is awesome. Yeah, I cannot wait to finally catch up with everybody. It's been, I was joking with somebody that I'm like, somebody needs to invent a time machine so I can just be like, Hypno Thoughts, skip the boring parts of the year, like skip work, do my birthday, Christmas, and then Hypno Thoughts. But I'm pretty sure nobody's invented a time machine yet.
Nope. The closest thing I know to a time machine is your imagination, where you can go back in time in regression therapy.
Exactly.
And for those who are curious, time permitting, we will devote a little bit of time to past life regressions, factor fantasy in the 2-day regression workshop. There are several different explanations to satisfy the skeptics. But oftentimes when a person initiates a regression, even if neither the client nor the hypnotherapist believes in past lives, sometimes a client will trance out into a spontaneous, real or imagined past life. Is it a real past life? Is it fantasy or metaphor or false memory? Is it channeling from the universal consciousness, kind of like a spiritual internet? Your guess is as good as mine. But if it helps a client, it doesn't matter, does it?
That's what I've never done. Well, I haven't done much regression, especially I haven't done any past life regression. But my opinion is, if it helps somebody, that it's well worth it, as long as you're not trying to misrepresent anything, in my opinion.
I agree. And if a client has a spontaneous past life regression and then asks me after the session if I think it's real, as happened years ago with a devout Lutheran Sunday school teacher, I put the ball back in their tennis court. I say, well, there are several explanations to explain what may have happened. It could be fantasy or metaphor. Maybe you saw a movie or heard a story as a child and your subconscious soaked it up. Some people believe it takes more than one lifetime to grow spiritually enough to go to heaven. Other people believe we can channel memories from the other side. And you're free to draw your own conclusions. But what's important is your subconscious found a way to help you release the fear of flying. In her alleged past life regression, she suffocated to death in an airtight compartment. And that's what the cause of her fear of flying was, the fear of suffocating once the plane got above 5,000 feet and the cabin was pressurized and airtight.
Now, here, I'm trying to think of a good way, almost a way to incentivize people to go to the conference. Is there any anything you could do over maybe the next 5 or 10 minutes? How do I describe it? Anything you could do, maybe like a little bonus you could come up with, how would I say it? Is there anything you could do maybe for this video where you could incentivize it for the next 5-10 minutes, talk about maybe a particular technique you use, and then if people register for a class, I'll give them a free download of this video.
Oh, well, I help clients establish finger response questions, which is called idiomotor responding. Some people call it IMR for idiomotor responding. And sometimes it's not obvious whether to use parts therapy or regression therapy. There is a technique where I set up a series of questions. And the reason I say a series of questions is because it's based on the fact there are 7 basic categories of causes of problems. And sometimes certain categories of causes would lend themselves more to regression, while others might lend themselves more to parts therapy or one of its variations. I would be happy to offer a free script to anyone who wants to email me at my email address, roy@royhunter.com, roy@royhunter.com. And if they mention this podcast, I'll give them the questions to ask as well as how to measure the responses. Now, at this point, I want to mention that some people recently threw up a thread on the hypnothoughts.com accusing me of doing inappropriate leading because of the idiomotor response questions. But these are generic questions, and you set the plate with 7 responses. Granted, they're yes or no, but they're most likely to come out of the subconscious when it's finger response as opposed to a verbal response. The idea originated from David Cheek and Leslie Leckrone decades ago. They called it the 7 keys. Charles Tebbets adapted the same formula, changed a couple of the names of the psychodynamics, even though they were basically in the same categories. He called it the 7 psychodynamics of a symptom. I updated Charlie's work, changed a couple of the names. For example, what Leckrone and Cheek called organ language, Charlie called body language. And to me, that was confusing, so I changed it to current unresolved issue. Charlie's definition was based on the fact that your subconscious could cause your body to have a problem if you're doing something that the subconscious wanted changing. Now, a current unresolved issue could be a habit rather than something physically wrong with your body. So that's why I changed it to current unresolved issue. And it's the same formula that appears in the Art of Hypnotherapy, the Parts Therapy text, and the Art of Hypnotic Regression Therapy. Meanwhile, Bruce Eimer, who was familiar with the 7 keys of Cheek and Leckrone because he was a personal friend of David Cheek, he co-authored a book on idiomotor response signals with Dr. Dabney Ewan a few years back. So you had the Cheek and Leckrone version first, and then on one side, Tebbets' version. On the other side, the version in the psychology profession. And now, in the latest update of the Parts Therapy Workbook and Hypnotic Regression Therapy Workbook, Bruce Eimer has modified both his version and my version into a new version with the acronym SUCCESS. And SUCCESS spells out the current version of those same 7 psychodynamics to make it easy to remember. So now the grandchild of what Leckrone and Cheek came up with decades ago is a combined version from both branches, which I think is kind of neat.
Okay, see, it's funny. I'm sitting here. I'm trying to spell success. I'm like, okay, so how many letters is that? That's very interesting.
7 letters.
You know, you so I don't want to get too far off topic, but you mentioned Leckrone. He I think I have his book on my shelf. He wrote, it was a self-hypnosis book, I believe.
He did write a self-hypnosis book. When I studied hypnosis under Charles Tebbets in 1983, there was an old book by Leckrone and Bordeaux written in the 40s called Hypnotism Today. Well, now that would be Hypnotism Yesterday. But that was one of our 2 textbooks, and the other textbook was Hypnotherapy by the late Dave Ellman. So those were our 2 textbooks.
It's funny, as I do have, I have one of his books. So I know about a year, say half a year ago, I started studying a lot more marketing, copywriting and whatnot. And I found an old print ad or a sales letter by Eugene Schwartz. And he was doing I think the original mail order ad for Leslie Lecron's book. So I took, and I wanted to get good at marketing and copywriting. So one of the old techniques is to take a sales letter that's been proven to work really good and take and just rewrite it by hand to kind of model, internalize the writing style. Mm-hmm. After I did that, I looked on my shelf and I was like, oh, no way, that's the book right there. I didn't even realize I had the book. It was kind of interesting.
That's funny. I remember when I was in classes at Charlie's, how many people said that his self-hypnosis book, which was called Self-Hypnosis and Other Mind-Expanding Techniques, was considered the best self-hypnosis book on the market 32 years ago because of its easy, simple language. And I took a lot of what I learned from him, combined it with some of my sales background, as well as my hypnotherapy training. And my latest version of self-hypnosis is Mastering the Power of Self-Hypnosis. And the 2nd edition was published by Crown House Publishing in 2011. I've gotten a lot of really great reviews from that book. There's also a CD included by the publisher next to the back cover with 2 different hypnosis messages. One is on stress management. The other is an old 10-minute meditation I recorded in 1990 that resulted in my being awarded the Hypnotic Voice of the Year from the International Hypnosis Hall of Fame.
I'm going to be right back. I think I have a book. I got to check my shelf. Give me 1 second.
Okay. I guess I can talk in the dead space. Any of you who want to go to my website, it's www.royhunter.com. That's royhunter.com. I have information on my website both for hypnosis professionals as well as the average person who might be interested in learning about hypnosis.
Give me 1 second. Where did I put that?
Okay, I'm still here.
Unfortunately, I don't know where I put that book. I actually got a copy of Tebbett's book, the little real skinny purple book.
Yes.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to incentivize people to go to your conference. There's a used bookstore here that they pretty much know any hypnosis book. It's my book. Because I'm the only one that goes there, and it's a small island. They always set them aside. Somebody actually delivered a huge quantity of Tebbett's purple book. If I can get those for fairly cheap enough, as long as they're not going to try to bleed me dry on them, because I know nobody else will buy them, I'm going to go to the bookstore, try to, the next couple of days, if I can get those for a good amount, what I'll do, anybody that registers for his class, I'll give them a free copy. Hopefully I can get those books.
Anyone who registers for either one of my classes as a result of this video, I will also give them one free DVD.
Awesome. Yeah, it's an excellent book. I know, but the thing is, I just looked at my bookshelf and I'm like looking around, like, okay, this book, I've got so many books. And then this is the one we were just mentioned, the Lacron book that
that's an oldie goldie.
Oh yeah, I found, the thing is, it says $245, but I think I probably got it for $8, which is not bad. And it was funny. You probably can't read it, but the writing on the back, that's the same writing that was from the newspaper ad wrote in I'd say maybe the 50s.
Oh.
You know what's funny? I believe the guy that did the copywriting work, the marketing for this guy, I think it was free works. I'm pretty sure Leslie Lacron taught him self-hypnosis or helped him in, I could be wrong, but I believe he helped him in some kind of manner. So he ended up, I could be wrong, but I think he might have done some free marketing for the guy.
I'm not real familiar with the history of Leslie Lacron, even though one of my books was on 20th century history of the artists of hypnosis. The book is entitled Through the Looking Glass. There's a link on my website to the Alliance bookstore with the IMDHA where you can buy a copy. The only copies I sell off my website are autographed copies of that particular book.
Boy, this has been great talking to you. And everybody, look above this video. There will be a link for his workshops. Definitely register for one. If not both, register for one of them. And I cannot wait to catch up with everybody.
I'm looking forward to Hypno Thoughts Live. Oh, also, you might want to edit out the silence when you left, because I assume you're going to have a recording of this.
Oh, yeah, it's a nice little chunk of silence.
I had a little blurb referring people to my website, but other than that, I was silent pretty much the whole time you were gone.
You could have made faces. You could have done some jokes, done karaoke.
I suppose I could have put on my weird sense of humor that occasionally emerges from a part of me that I usually keep in check.
Don't worry, you can let that part go in Vegas.
I did with the recent jokes that someone asked for on Hypno Thoughts.
What I'll do is I'll hit stop broadcast, because I don't hope it should be PC, but I always want to keep everything squeaky clean just in case.
Edit out anything that you deem might be questionable. But I would like to mention for anyone who's watching, who's either a hypnosis professional or a prospective client interested in hypnosis, that my website is geared both for the professionals as well as people who might be interested in becoming clients of hypnosis. I have a lot of information on there for people who are new to the profession, for people who are simply interested in having hypnotherapy as a client, as well as people who are hypnosis professionals who wish to learn more.
Definitely. That's royhunter.com, right?
Correct.
Well, it's been great catching up with you. And like I said, I'm going to, after I hang up, I'm going to call the bookstore, and hopefully, so last time I checked, they had a huge stack of Tebbett's books. If I can get those for like $2 a pop or something, I'll bring them, and anybody that signs up, I will give them a free copy. And folks, For registering, like you said, you're going to get a free copy of the idiomotor script and a DVD.
Yes. I need to know before the actual workshop that you registered as a result of this podcast, so I can set the DVD aside, because quite frequently I sell out of my products when I have an exhibit table.
Yeah, so everybody, once you register, contact him, and it's roy@royhunter.com, right?
Correct.
Well, I cannot wait to catch up with you and everybody else and to hear some of your weird sense of humor, so just set aside a nice joke for me.
Okay, will do.
So everybody, I will see everybody soon, and like I said, make sure to click that link up there and register for one or for both or one of his classes.
Aloha.
It was nice seeing you.
Practice long and prosper.
Oh, here I got there it goes.